Hello, and welcome back to Sudden But Inevitable. It is Season 3, my friends. Sudden But Inevitable, of course, is the podcast dedicated to single-season sci-fi space western television shows that were canceled too soon. I mean, not specifically, but that's 90% of what we've covered, so welcome to Sudden But Inevitable. I, of course, am your host, Captain Bootscoot, a.k.a. Vanilla Husband, a.k.a. Jesse. And, of course, with me, as always this week, is my very good friend and longtime co-host, Josh. Josh, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be back for Season 3 and get this going. Oh, man. And also, I don't mean to brag, but in T-minus 3 hours and 19 minutes, it is my birthday.
What? It's going to be your birthday? That's so crazy. It's so close to Sudden But Inevitable's birthday. That's thematically perfect. I love that. It's been almost exactly a year for us, my friend, and it has been almost exactly another year for you. And as I have mentioned elsewhere on the network this week, it has felt like at least 100 years. Now, really quickly, let's take a moment to say hello to all the very cool, good-looking people in our chat. That, of course, includes Callie D and our friend Ya Boy Sways on Twitch. I just can't tell you, every single week there are people in chat waiting to hang out with us, and that means the world to Josh and I. And Sudden But Inevitable would not be as much fun as it is without you, so thank you very much. Now, the other thing that makes Sudden But Inevitable so much fun, of course, is a little piece of the show that sadly ain't with us right now. He's lost up in the snowy mountains. He's driving a dangerous road all alone. He's making his way slowly back to his home base, and that's Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. He ain't here right now, but we're thinking about you, son, and we can't wait to see your smiling face on that screen. He will be here at some point, we think. We're pretty sure. What I said is not that much of an exaggeration. He's driving somewhere by himself. There was a car accident that he was not involved in, but it was in front of him on, like, a very narrow one-way road, so he's kind of stuck, and fingers crossed, we're waiting on Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D, folks. He'll be here.
Driving through the mountains can be tricky already, especially after snow, and then when there's an accident, like, so he's in our thoughts, and I cannot wait to see his shining, smiling face.
And it's Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D, so you know that he's just screaming at every person on the road,
punching the ceiling,
constant road rage. I mean, he may not make it back just because he will have destroyed the inside of his own vehicle by the time he gets, by the time he's able to drive to where he needs to be. Now, of course,
thanks, Callie. Yay!
If we, yes, happy birthday, Josh. Now, we can't just leave it like that, though, right? It can't just be.
Correct.
Well, I mean, it could be, but we're not going to do that. We're professionals here. This is an award-winning podcast. Everybody knows that. Another thing that everybody knows is the next person that I'm about to introduce. This is a very good friend of ours. He has been to Sudden But Inevitable before. Last time he was here, he introduced us to a very cool movie called Space Sweepers on Netflix. And of course, I am referring to Robert of the Science Fiction Remnant podcast. Robert, welcome back to Sudden But Inevitable. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm really excited to be back. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yay!
I am very happy to have you. I have to
get my bumpers up, the applause bumper and the damn it,
and air horns and the. It's okay. It's okay. That's what post-production is for. There will be no air horns. So we have.
That's why I do it, because you won't. So if I do,
Yep. Welcome to the dynamic of our show, ladies and gentlemen. Also got to say hello to our wonderful friend Sincera in the chat. Hey, how you doing, man? Fingers crossed for Ricky D. He says I love Ricky D's smile as well. The love, it does not stop here at Sudden But Inevitable. Now, Robert, you host Science Fiction Remnant podcast, which of course covers all kinds of science fiction. You guys talk anime, you talk live action, you guys do you've done Korean space Western movies, all kinds of stuff like that. What are you guys doing at Science Fiction Remnant currently that you can tell people about?
We were talking about some oldie but goodies.
Ooh, I love me some oldies.
That's cryptic.
And we're bringing some people over from other podcasts as well.
That sounds like an invitation, ladies and gentlemen. I think if you are interested in science fiction, you should follow Robert on Twitter at Sci-Fi Remnant and get in touch. Now, I have to say, gentlemen, new season means new show here at Sudden But Inevitable, okay? Josh and I recently spent some time together on a little podcast that we like to call Quest Me, and it's all about Disney Plus Star Wars series. It started with The Mandalorian. Last night we talked about The Book of Boba Fett, Episode 2. You can check that out on YouTube. You can get Quest Me wherever you get your podcasts. It's not out in podcast form yet, but it will be very, very shortly. So,
and can I just say that episode was like probably one of my top 3 episodes of Quest Me.
Oh, yeah.
It was so much fun.
It was
not just because it's Star Wars, but because there was a lot of other fun things that happened in that show. And I'm excited to be doing that again for sure. So if you guys are into Star Wars, I know Sincera was there, and thank you so much for that. But if you guys are into that, we do a live show on Thursday nights for each Book of Boba Fett episode, and they get rowdy. They get a little rowdier than the Sudden But shows. So
yeah, I was
a lot of fun
watching back through that a little bit today at work, and I probably shouldn't have been doing that, but so there's a lot of interesting dynamics between all the hosts in the Twist My Arm network. Let's say it that way. And 4 of us were in one place last night, so it was a good show. Josh is not exaggerating. Now, Quest Me, of course, was actually the genesis of Sudden But Inevitable, because when we watched Mandalorian, Josh kept saying I'd never seen Firefly. So we made him watch Firefly, and then we made him watch Cowboy Bebop. Now, I'm sorry, this is hard for me to talk about still. The live-action Cowboy Bebop came out, and we were all very excited, me chiefly, because I had just drugged my 2 friends through the original Cowboy Bebop so that I could have them watch live-action Cowboy Bebop with me and have a blast. Then we managed to get hold of codes to watch the first 2 episodes a couple of hours before they were released, and we watched them together in like this really cool online premiere event environment together, and it was like, you can go listen to the bonus episode that we did about that. It was a lot of fun. It was one of the first times that Josh, Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D, and I have all experienced a brand new thing at exactly the same time together for the first time. I think that's the first time ever that had happened.
I think you're right.
Yeah, less than 3 weeks later, the show was canceled, which I feel terrible, chiefly for all the people involved, because A, that's messed up. It was less than 3 weeks. Like, that's just insane.
Like no chance.
That's insane
to
me.
It any sort of chance. It kind of got a Firefly treatment. I feel like they were like, nope.
It is the 2021 version of a Firefly thing. And so immediately, part of me was like, well, we only cover shows that got canceled or only had 1 season, and we did a bonus episode on this. Is it our fault? Did we jinx the new Cowboy Bebop? Like, I'm not superstitious usually, but then that happened and I got really upset, and I had a moment where I was like, you guys, what do we do? And immediately, thankfully, Josh and Ricky D came back with the answer to that, which was, we cover Cowboy Bebop. Obviously.
Well, it got canceled after 1 season, so it's a good trend.
So here we are.
Mourning.
It was like, you know what? Even if it feels really gut-wrenchingly weird and bad to have to fit this in because it fits for that reason, I am deeply grateful that we get to talk about this series because you know what? I'm going to spoil this right up front, you guys. I love the new Cowboy Bebop. I have had nothing but fun with the series, and I have been enjoying myself all the way through. There hasn't been a moment. We'll get to it. There's going to be a whole podcast about it. So, season 3 of Sudden But Inevitable is live action Cowboy Bebop. Ladies and gentlemen, and Themperers in the chat and listening out there in podcast land, thank you so much for coming with us on this journey. Now, if I said live action Cowboy Bebop and you went, I don't like live action Cowboy Bebop, I'm fine with that. I mean, you and I probably can't hang out together in real life, but I think that there's going to be something that you get out of this podcast because there are going to be people here that probably agree with you on a lot of stuff. There will also be people here that staunchly disagree with you on 99% of stuff. So just be prepared. And I feel like with all that out of the way, it's probably time that I ask Josh. Josh, what do you got?
Well, I'm just kind of agreeing with you that this was a little bit more of a controversial show, I feel like, as far as the fan base goes. I mean, you look at Firefly and the Browncoats and like that immense just love for that show, and then the original Cowboy Bebop, the same kind of thing for that. I mean, we got, with the live action, there was a lot of blowback from,
I would say we
fans
got the exact same degree of unnecessary, whiny, misplaced vitriol about
Star Wars.
Like, I mean, seriously, like I have seen every single angle of it. I have seen every version of the complaint. Like, it's not close enough to the anime. It's too close to the anime. I don't like the tone.
Right.
The tone is too this. Like, it looks like a cartoon. It doesn't look like enough like a cartoon. Like, are you kidding me with this stuff? And then I've also had the argument
can you just enjoy it? Can you
Seriously.
just not enjoy it? Is that what it is? People just can't enjoy things because this show was really good. I mean, I'm not a huge anime fan. That was the first time I saw Cowboy Bebop in season 2 of Sudden But Inevitable, but it was still a good show for what it was. The story was way different from the anime, obviously, but it still came back around, and it was kind of made for a little more of a serial audience, someone that wants to watch a continuous story, which I appreciate a lot.
But then they didn't give us enough time to do that. Like,
right.
This show is not designed to be binged the way that the 22-minute anime episodes are. Surprise. And then Netflix went, oh, people didn't binge it. What's going on? Like, okay, and by the way, I've also had the argument with somebody who was like, I'm not bagging on the show. I just haven't watched it. I'm just wondering, don't you think maybe they could have spent money somewhere else? I'm like, that is the most absurd, what even is that argument? And no, I disagree. I don't know. Just no.
Also, just watch the show before you make any sort of opinion.
And
I feel like there's a lot of people that did that too. They're like, oh, it's a live action remake of an old anime. Right. I'm not even going to watch it, and I'm just automatically going to hate it because bleh.
Yes. And I promise that we will slow down and talk about this show. I just have to get this out of the way. I'm not sitting here saying that it's perfect, okay, because it's not. But most things aren't. Nothing is. But I am sitting here saying people did not give this a proper chance. People did not try with this in some way or something. I know myriad people who have loved the series from start to finish. And I am not just saying this. I am literally going to bring this person on the show to prove it. I know somebody who likes the live action version of the show better than the anime, which kind of blew my mind. Like, I was not expecting that.
Wow.
But let's slow down a little bit and let's talk about this beautiful thing one episode at a time. We're going to get the synopsis for Cowboy Gospel, the first episode, but let me ask you,
I do want to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
About the cancellation. The petition to get it back has now reached 100,000 votes or 100,000 signatures.
Yes, it has. Now, we are going to be putting the link to that petition in every episode's show notes of this season.
Yeah.
Now,
definitely.
While I take a moment to breathe, Robert, my friend, I got to ask you, man, what's your baseline for Cowboy Bebop? Did you watch the anime? Did you love it? What kind of Cowboy Bebop fan were you before the live action Cowboy Bebop dropped?
Well, I can tell you, and I think is no surprise if you follow me on Twitter. I am a huge fan of Cowboy Bebop, and I believe in some of my tweets you could actually read how excited and scared I was really, really excited. And it makes me wonder if that's the reason why some people prefer not to watch it and comment about it, or have reservations on watching, because it is historical, where when they try to make a remake or something that we love, anything, it's in the past. I can name a couple of things here.
Mhm.
They have done a horrible job. That being said, I watched the entire thing, and like you said, it's not perfect, but I get so freaking excited every time I watch it, and I wonder, when is that excitement going to wear off?
Yeah. And who is looking at what is on this screen in front of them with this series and going, like, there's so much of it, and it's in such a strange, like, mode. Like, how, even just the sheer weirdness of the thing, like, how are you not digging with that? Like, our friend Angelus in the live chat says, sounds like the same arguments haters for Alita, and I feel
Yes,
Alita did even better. I have
exactly.
heard that repeatedly, and I still have not seen Alita. It's on the list, my friends. It is on the list.
Oh,
Maybe we could watch it for this show after this season, because I do keep hearing that that is an example of an adaptation done correctly.
it's going to change
Um,
your life.
it's I mean, that's quite the claim, Robert. So I'm willing to force you to back that
I've
up.
said that to Jesse at least 15 times, and I think it's never happened.
We watched Logan's Run.
Okay, all right. Okay, one time out of 34 years.
And did it change my life? No, but I mean, it was a fun movie. Like, I just, in case you can't tell, passions are running high here at Sudden But Inevitable, for Cowboy Bebop this season. So, okay, now that we've gotten all that out of the way, you guys, it's only been 18 minutes of show. Josh, if you don't mind, and I know that I can stall because you know me, I'll talk. I mean, we don't even need it, but if you wouldn't mind, bring up the synopsis for the first episode, Cowboy
Mhm,
Gospel, and
mhm.
share it with us, my friend.
After getting shortchanged on the fee for a bounty, Spike and Jet head to New Tijuana on the trail of another mark. But they're not the only ones.
But they're not the only one. So,
I'll write a better one next week.
no, that's perfect. To me, that's perfect.
Okay.
I let's spotlight this really quickly before we jump in. Our friend Sincera says, I was more afraid that I'd be watching a shot for shot live action remake rather than fearing it wouldn't be a 10 out of 10. I love that point. It's well constructed. Here's the thing that we have repeatedly tried to tell people. I don't want to say we tried to cram this down people's throats, but
Wow.
it's a remix, right? Cowboy Bebop
Oh,
is all about the
yeah.
music. It's all about
Yeah.
the feel. It's all about style. This is a remix, okay? Pure and simple. That's what you get if you if you have to do more Cowboy Bebop, and you do have to do more Cowboy Bebop.
Remix.
That's the point, though. Like, the thing that a lot of people don't like about the Matrix, the new Matrix movie, right, is that it is very, like, self-referential and, like, middle finger to some people and this, that, and the other thing. But one thing that I'll pull from that movie to talk about this is they said, hey, our powers that be are going to be making this with or without us. And I feel like that's where Cowboy Bebop was at. Netflix was going, we're going to make this show. Okay. So get used to that fact. We are very lucky that they happened to get a team of people that really cared about the show they were making and loved what they were doing all the way through with the finest of detail and just wonderful, beautiful talent. And still, people were like, it's a Netflix adaptation. I don't like it. And I don't know. The way they remixed it was for the American audience, and the American audience was the one that somehow managed to be so vocally negative and whiny and vitriolic. Anyways, let's talk about this opening scene. Robert, the opening scene in the Watanabe Casino, we've got the introduction to Spike, we've got the introduction to Jet. Talk about this scene. What do you love the most about this introduction scene in the very first episode of live Cowboy Bebop, Robert?
I would have to say two things. The first thing and I don't know if you guys noticed, you probably did, because if you're as much a fan as I am, Watanabe Casino, that's a nod to the director of the original anime.
Yep.
And I was just like, oh. Second, it is typical Spike fashion. How he walks in and just his introduction is perfect. He's walking in pretending he has no clue what's going on with his headphones on and the music. And that music. By the way, I play that all the time.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good. It's just that harmonica. It's just so good.
This episode all the way through. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So I just got goosebumps. That was just the first episode. That intro, that right there, just walking outside the elevator and just acting like he normally does.
Yeah, it was the way that I think we felt about it was the tone was perfect, right? It's not shot for shot. There are some shots throughout this whole episode and series that are shot for shot, but they're placed in such a way that that's not where we're used to seeing them, or they've got a different context associated with them, that sort of a thing. So it's a very fun, again, remix. You're going to hear that word a lot, but we
need to make a drop. Remix.
Spike just feels like Spike.
Yes.
John M.F. Cho, gentlemen. I mean, this guy.
Yes.
This freaking guy. Anybody who watched this series and went, he's too old for this part? Are you kidding me? You can't tell how old. You can't tell how old John Cho is. Get out of my face.
Like when we saw him with a hairdo for the first time, when they announced this thing, I can tell you he delivered.
Yeah.
I was ready.
He bought in. He bought in really hard. Like you can tell he appreciated the source material, because to me, he is Spike. Like he's Spike Spiegel, like I watch How I Met Your Mother a lot because it's a comfort show, and he's in one of those seasons, and I was like, oh my God, it's Spike. And that show was made years ago.
And still, I have my reservations when they announced them. I have my reservations because of the stuff that I've seen in the past, what is that
Harold and Kumar.
Yeah, Harold Kumar. I'm not saying he's a bad actor, but watching him from that point of view, I have and that's partly the reason why I was kind of scared. Nice. Nice. I was kind of scared because I didn't know what to expect, and I saw him with a hairdo, and I'm like, please. And after I saw that, just those few minutes from that first episode, I was like, that's it.
Yeah. Spike. The first, and I'll bring this up here. The first picture that we saw was this.
Yeah.
And I thought, I know we talked about it while we were podcasting about the anime and how awesome they looked. They got the look. They're playing the part really well in just those still photos that they first released back in like August or whatever.
And for me, that's what I need, right? For the remix to work, the parts have to be there, but then they can do whatever they want with them. So it's like they built the perfect Bebop. They actually got an old boat and turned it into a set. Like the sets on this show are gorgeous. I have
Oh yes.
This is one of those moments where people are like, I don't like the way it was shot and the angles and the lighting, and I'm like,
that's like my favorite part of this. It's so stylistic and like different, and that's what I love in the filmmaking aspect of like, when you're trying to do something new. Like this was new and it was awesome. Like I love those weird angles where it's like, on an axis, and I don't know. This is.
I think Netflix really made an anime. It's not going to sound right, but they made a live action anime.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it, it feels like you're watching anime. And I know they have done this in the past, but this one in particular it's just very shocking the way that you see the scenes.
Well, I think it goes back to the way that the anime was drawn. Like the shots, quote unquote, in the anime, right, look like they're set up on an actual camera rig, or they're in a physical space, or they take the size of the camera into account, like that kind of a thing. Like it's shot very realistically. So the translation to me is pretty smooth. Like, I feel like it just fits. And then the pieces, like I said, the pieces are there and they can just do whatever they want with the pieces. And brother howdy, do they do whatever they want with the pieces in this series? Like, which I'm really grateful for. I'm glad that they did that, because as several of the people in our chat have said, and as we've all said before, we don't want shot for shot. Yeah. Now I feel like after this, maybe some audience does want shot for shot. I don't know, but like,
but I feel like this was the best possible thing that could have been made that was different. It was the best possible remix. You know, like you've seen stories get remixed before, and it's usually terrible. Yeah. But it's because some crazy writer has some crazy idea that they think they can make the story better, whereas these writers, I believe they went and talked to the original showrunners and stuff and kind of collaborated with them, didn't they?
So they had access to production notes from the original series, and they had the original creator as a consultant. Now, he has since, had interviews where he's like, I don't know how much of my vision they're going to follow in this, that, and the other thing. But let me throw this out there. Nobody is disrespecting Watanabe by saying it doesn't actually matter what he thinks of this version. Like, this isn't his version, and that's okay. Like, this is,
but in the deepest respect, like, they did a good job taking his source material and turning it into something
and different. They didn't have to. They could have just like treated it poorly, and I think a lot of people are claiming that they have, and they clearly have not. Like, you can see the love that went into this, the tiny, minute, impossibly cool details, like the voice actor photos on the fridge, in the ship, and just like all the little pieces that are from the show but just perfectly rendered in live action.
And especially this episode as compared to the first episode of the anime, like, they did a really good job portraying this story with, the drugs and the, oh man, it was great. It was, again, it was so different in the way that they introduced characters and did things, but they still had those same pieces there that made us fall in love with Cowboy Bebop in the beginning.
So I'm going to address this because I feel like it needs to be addressed. Our very good friend Sincera says, I love Vicious and I love Alex Hassel's performance, but that wasn't a remixed Vicious. That was a disgrace to Vicious. I understand what you mean. I understand what you mean. But here's the thing. I feel that his character was remixed for an American audience, and American audiences, I think, like to have an easy person to hate. So they were like, let's just make him easy to hate. He's the bad guy. We'll give him some motivation later. Now, the thing I really like about Vicious is that in the original anime, and I'm not criticizing the original anime when I say this, I'm just saying he sort of decides, I'm going to go crazy and kill everybody and start a war. In this, he at least has some semblance of a reason. Is it a good reason? No. Is he well put together? No. Is he a stable person? No. Am I cool with all that? Yes. Like, I'm totally fine with that. If he needs to be...
Americans are lazy, Sincera says.
If he needs to... I don't disagree with Sincera at all. But I feel like if you're making a show for a primarily American audience, there are things that you have to take into account. And that's what I mean when I say, like, considering all of the BS surrounding what it would take to adapt Cowboy Bebop, and knowing that Netflix was willing to push through that anyway, we are very lucky, and we should be very grateful to have gotten the product that we did, because they could have slapped this thing together in no time, and it could have been awful. Now, I hear you out there going, her, but go look at the show, watch the show. The amount of detail and quality in it is higher than you're willing to admit. I guarantee that. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm saying it's better than you're willing to give it credit for. Most of you, not Josh and Robert, because I know that you guys are cool. So now, this is primarily, I would say, a remix of, like Josh had mentioned, the first episode of the anime, Asteroid Blues, and that first intro scene is definitely from the Cowboy Bebop movie, whose title I don't use out of spite. So it's a good standard setting, right? They're going, look, it's not going to be the same. It's going to be same-ish, but it's going to be mixed differently. Now, speaking of mix, what one element, Josh, has to be perfect for a Cowboy Bebop remix to work?
Well, the music, obviously.
Thank you, my
friend.
And
that's one thing that was absolutely perfect throughout this entire series. And it man, they really drew you in this first episode with that music, you know, and it's that harmonica, man. They know how to work it. And then I think when you first saw the intro, and heard that song remixed, I mean, it's still pretty much the exact same song, just better sound
different.
quality.
Yeah.
But like, you know, you hear it and you're like, oh yes, this is wonderful. Like, it makes me want to go play it in my car really loud on a better system, you know, because it's,
I do,
man, it's just so good. And you can't get away from it the whole time. You and I were watching the episode before we even started going through this or started the podcast, and talking about how some of the music kind of matched up with the scenes and stuff, and like some of the kicks and the punches and like the different shots, the music would line up with it. And that is what makes Cowboy Bebop so awesome. You know, the writing is great, the acting is great, but like the music is really, really what sucks you in. And me being a huge Star Wars fan, that's one thing that I loved back in the day was the music. So I'm thoroughly impressed with it.
Yeah. Really quickly before we go anywhere, gentlemen, I have to say hello to Rona in the chat. Rona is very important to us because she gave birth to Callie in the chat. So without Rona, our viewership would drop like 20% immediately, and that's not good. And we love you, ladies. You are always here every week with us. They're usually the two first people in the chat. They usually make a comment before the show even starts, and we couldn't do Sudden But Inevitable the same way it gets done without them. So thank you, Rona and Callie, for being here. Again, no relation to Ricky D of Best Flicks with Ricky D, which, again, should be here at some point. He's safe. He's just late, but it's not his fault.
He might even just show up in the chat at some point. But we do have his shots, and we do have his other segments stuff ready and lined up. So
we got all kinds of stuff tonight, you guys. Okay, really quick look behind the curtain. You know Josh and I, okay? We planned ahead this season. Some of the stuff is already done for next week. Not a lot of it, but I'm saying we've made some plans this year. So new year, same podcast, better production quality every single week. Now, I have to ask, Robert, if you could pick out one piece of this episode where you went, and let's not say it was, there he is, ladies and gentlemen, Ricky D might be in
you gotta
the
be
chat.
kidding me.
That was like terrifying. If you could pick out one piece of this episode after the intro theme tank, Robert, where you went, okay, I am here for live action Cowboy Bebop. This episode has me sold. Which scene would you say it was?
First scene from the get-go. It's just that initial fighting scene and seeing the chemistry between Spike and Jet.
Yeah.
And it's like, Spike, we're supposed to taking them alive. And then Jet shoots that guy. It's like, what are you saying about taking them alive? I was like, I'm so in. I am so in.
It matches the comedic tone of the comedic parts of Cowboy Bebop. That's another thing. Let me just bring that up right quick. All you jerks out there complaining like, oh, it's trying to be too funny. It's trying to be too Marvel-like. It's like, no, they're expanding on the humor that was already in the series. You know, like Spike, for example, trying to eat his dinner and realizing, oh, there's no meat in this bell peppers and beef. It's just bell peppers and noodles. Like,
hey, Josh, is there beef there?
Oh,
negative.
Just bell peppers.
Wouldn't really call it bell peppers and beef.
Correct.
Would you? So
I just call it noodles.
But for me, it's like those moments, right? The noodles moment, that I knew I was here. I knew I was sold. The moment where Spike is training without no shirt on. And seriously, you're telling me that you can tell that he's 50? You can't tell he's 50. I knew that I was here for this. There were so many points throughout this where I went, okay, this is where it is. But yeah, I feel like the toning is perfect in every way. The drama is perfect. The noir is perfect. The humor is perfect. Anybody who thinks that this doesn't take itself seriously enough, seriously, go back and watch the anime. There's some goofy shit in the anime. Like,
oh my god,
I promise you. Like, and it's okay. Like, it's a good thing. Like, and the other thing is, yes, the anime is amazing for what it did. It created its own genre of space western bebop, right? Like they literally created a new genre, and they called their shot. You can go back and listen to season 2. I do nothing but pour praise on the anime, and I'm not here to detract from it. But you will also hear us say that there's not much original concepts in the anime. It's mostly stuff we've seen before: space westerns, spaceships, bounty hunters, that kind of a thing. It's just all those things put with music that's really, really cool and noir and, drama imagery and things like that. So I feel like an adaptation is in the DNA of Cowboy Bebop in the first place. So, and knowing that this is a swing that Netflix was staunchly always going to take, I am so happy that we got what we got, and I'm so devastated that we are not getting more of what we got, because
I mean, especially I know we'll talk about it later on in the season, but we got robbed real hard in this whole series. Like, and I'm not even going to talk about it now, but just some of the things that we kind of missed out on, that I personally was just so excited to see. And I know that 100,000 signatures will tell you that there was things that we missed out on. So
yeah,
I mean,
it was pretty clear to me that, and if you listen to if you listen to interviews with the creators of this show, or read articles that they've done, or, for example, I don't know, maybe podcasts that they make, you will hear them talk about how much love there is for this show on the creative side of it, and how excited they were about season 2. Like, that is a point that comes up a lot, and that just, it hits me right in my heart every time, because I'm like, having brought this show from a firefly place, like, come on, that's just hard, but like, I don't know, I'm really hoping that 100,000 plus signatures, maybe if it has to move to a different service, I don't know, maybe we could just get some sort of continuation of this story from these creators. I would love to see that if we can. And I'm going to spend a good part of like my podcast advertising time, right, where I push this show on people, telling people to go sign that petition too. So
I've signed it.
It's
Me too.
I think everybody on the show signed it pretty quickly, and then we've actually made quite a few friends on Twitter just by retweeting that and keeping that energy up, because I feel like, especially in 2022 now, it's the kind of environment where if enough people demand a thing, I would hope somebody will go, okay, let's let those people give us their money.
Yeah, and I think that's one of my goals of this season is to just get people on board, because if you've watched the show and you liked it and you still haven't signed that petition, like, get on board, do it, because the more people do that, the more, all Netflix cares about is the the money aspect of it. And so if they see 100,000 200,000 people doing that, signing those petitions, they're going to realize that people actually want that. And for me, I really want to push that, because I want to see another season of it. And I know that most people that are watching this show, most of the show runners, the actors, like, they all want to see a season 2 as well. So it would be great if we could use this show as a platform to kind of get that going.
100%. And operators are standing by. Josh, go ahead and throw up that 800 number. You know what, folks? We have I'm totally playing. We didn't
I was like,
do a
what?
thing. I mean, wouldn't that be funny though? Like, if all of a sudden we were like, actually, this is a fundraising charity call-a-thon.
I got people standing by to take your.
If there's a way to do that, I'm probably willing to do that. But yeah, so Sinacera says, I hit play on the show before I leave for work, and just to mess frack with the algorithm. I agree, dude. Here's the thing. I've seen this first episode 15 times easily, because every time I turn it on, I watch it a different way. Like, it's just, there's so much in it. I have had this on while I wasn't watching it and just listened to the whole episode. It's the horn for me, you guys. The horn in the soundtrack, mostly at the spaceport, which they just call the spaceport, and the sign says Space Aeropuerto. Like, I love that. in such a dumb way. Like, but in a genuine, real way, and do not take it from me. Seriously.
That's exactly what we would call it, though.
Yes.
Like if we had a
yes,
we have a space force. What do you think we're not going to call it a space port? That's like Star Wars names over there. Come on.
What Angela said, I'm crossing my fingers.
Yes, 100%. Lucifer TV series, which was also got a Netflix graphic novel adaptation, was axed after the third season, and the fan base went ballistic. Went on to finish its sixth season as intended. Bebop fans should not lose hope. We will not, because we have a wonderful couple of people on our team. One of them whom is Sincera, who's an engine of chaos. And if it's going to take anything to get Cowboy Bebop back, I think it's going to be some very well coordinated bebop and chaos. So we're glad to have you with us, Sincera, on our side of the bebop war. I don't want to say that. That sounds too aggressive. I don't want this to be an
I'll say it.
show.
Hashtag bebop war.
Give us no hashtag save Cowboy Bebop. That's much more positive. So, gentlemen, I'm sorry. This is turning into not a discussion of the TV show.
It's fine.
So,
this is a good introduction to the season.
We have everybody here. We have Spike. We have Jet. The performances of John Cho and Mustafa Shakir are nothing short of amazing. We have Faye Valentine. Faye Valentine shows up in the first episode of this series. That is a very, very different than the way the original series went. She was maybe episode 3, I think, episode 4 in the series. I think it was episode 3
or 4. Yeah.
And I immediately I was like, oh, that's very different. And as soon as she started talking, I went, I'm so happy. I don't. Yeah. They can do whatever they want with these pieces. They have all of the pieces in place. Daniela Pineda is amazing. She is pitch perfect.
She crushed it.
She is the most, I think, realistic possible version of Faye. Right?
I have an adult crush on this Faye as much as I had a kid crush on the original Faye. You know what I mean? Like I'm just gonna be real.
Yeah. Hashtag
Double
adult crush.
Double crush.
Yeah, Faye makes it clear that no one has any soap, though. I mean, it's true. The thing about Faye is that, to me, she is the most realistic version that we could have of her, because yes, they could have hired a 6.5-foot tall model that can't act, right? They could have done that, and they could have put her in an exact replica of the costume, but like, who cares? Like, I would much rather have a Faye that can make me feel things. We're jumping ahead. I don't want to jump ahead.
That's awesome. She's just a badass. Her introduction
yeah.
was incredible.
She holds Spike at gunpoint and then has a little
Callie
tussle
just
with him.
Echoed me as soon as I was saying it. She typed that up like we're in sync.
Well, and yes, Sincera makes it clear that no one has enough soap to wash out their mouths. That was the thing. So that was the moment where you go, oh, this is how Cowboy Bebop is. I am so here for this. But I mean, think about it.
That's what the old Cowboy Bebop. Okay.
That's what the old series wanted to be, right? It wanted to be an adult series, and it was in a lot of ways, 100%. Right. But now they have fewer restrictions, man. Like, they can show a lot more stuff now. I do understand that, you know, Faye being able to like handle a fight hand to hand with Spike is maybe not something that people were expecting, and maybe people aren't okay with it because it was never in the show. But like, who cares? Like, why does that matter? Why should
it's
she
a
not
remix?
Remix.
And why should she not be able to fight? Like, why? Give me a good reason.
Yeah.
Like, a good story reason. Like, there's no good story reason to go, yeah, but she's really weak. So like,
right.
I'm like, get over it. It's fine. She can fight. Now, I like the little knife things. I like that she is sparring verbally and physically at the same time with him. I like that she is very standoffish, just like how when we met her the first time in the original series, she gets locked in a bathroom. She's just so like alive, right? And that's kind of the essence of Faye for me, right? She's the frozen Cinderella. She woke up. She's living her life. She's been given a second chance. She's gonna live it, damn it. And she does it. And Daniela Pineda really, really, for me, added a lot of believability to a character that, I mean, if you go back and listen to Sudden But Inevitable season 2, Ricky and Josh have trouble liking Faye because she's so like manipulative and, let's be honest, pretty. So like to have Josh be enjoying this character is a big leap forward. As soon as Ricky D is done with his space shower and jumps into the chat with us live, I'll ask him what he thinks of Daniela Pineda's Faye.
Ricky D showers? Really?
But right now, ooh, that was low. That was low. Right now, I'm going to ask my friend Robert from the Science Fiction Remnant podcast, what did you think of Daniela Pineda's Faye?
I can tell you it's very refreshing. I like the attitude. It not, just turn it all up to 100% of like, I don't care and I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
It is refreshing and it's amazing. To me, it might not necessarily be what I'm used to, just like we're kind of talking about it. And at the beginning, I had a little reservation, but once I finished that episode and I saw that, it's like, I like this. I really like how they just, it's like the Faye that I know on steroids. It's just, it's amazing. I love it. I love it.
I think it's the Faye that we actually like deserve. You know what
Yes.
I mean? Like, and especially as adults, like I don't want some little girl, like, just being a helpless damsel in distress or whatever. Like, I don't want that. I want my Faye to be a badass and to be kicking ass, and she does that, and then she shows that with her introduction with that fight with Spike. Like they went toe to toe, and it was tight.
Well, I feel like that's almost why they put her in the first episode with Katarina, because it was like, here's a mostly helpless character, right? By design.
Mhm.
Katarina's always a victim of her circumstances. I mean, she chose to live with a criminal, etc. I don't know their whole story.
No judgments. You
It's
do
their
you.
relationship. But I like that they gave they gave 3 lines of backstory to Katarina, and it made her, it made an easy introduction for Faye. It made it make sense why somebody would be after her. They just went, oh, she's Katarina Montgomery. You don't need to know who the other Montgomery they mentioned is. You now know that she has a last name, which means somebody could be looking for her, right?
And Montgomery's pretty sophisticated, right? That you kind of look
That's
back
a long
at like
last
an old
name. It implies
Kentucky, like, moonshiner Montgomery. You know what I mean?
Well, space Kentucky, but yeah, and she all she has to do is go, Daddy wants you home, and it's like, cool. That's the whole story right there. We know why Faye is after her. We know why there are conflicting interests. We've got the whole thing. Very smooth way to handle introducing a character people were not expecting until a couple of episodes later. I really like that. I've heard a lot of complaints about the wigs on this show, and I think I have a confession to make, you guys. I can't see wigs like on television. Like I can't tell when people are wearing wigs at all. 100%. Like, Josh, you've seen Star Trek The Next Generation, for example. I know Robert has seen it, but so Gates McFadden, Dr. Crusher, is wearing a redhead wig the entire series, right? I didn't know that until like probably 3 years ago. I'm a little bit ashamed to admit it, but part of what we do here at Sudden But Inevitable is we be very honest with our audience, right? I can't see wigs, and that's a thing I can't do. Were there any wigs in this show that you guys were like, oh, that's a bad wig, or like anything like that? Because like the one complaint that I have had, my personal one complaint that I've had so far in the first episode, is that sometimes Jet's beard looks a little fakey, and I eventually came up with a couple of reasons where I was like, oh, that might actually be a choice that they made on purpose. And I can't really verify them because I think they're based on some season 2 stuff. But was there anything that you guys saw, like with the hair or the costumes or the makeup or anything? Robert, let's start with you, where you were like, oh, that's poorly done. Because I didn't see any of that stuff.
It's really interesting that you say that, because I'm like you. I can't tell wigs. I mean, I know people, oh, can you tell that they were? No, can't see it. Don't. I tried. I just can't recognize it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, Robert. I don't mean to interrupt you. I just have to suddenly but inevitably introduce, ladies and gentlemen, and Themperers in the chat and in podcast land, we have the person with us that we cannot do this show without. It is Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I had a long day driving all over the mountains, dealing with traffic and all kinds of fun stuff, but I am here now. I've been watching you guys while I've been kind of driving around and finishing up, so.
Oh, man. We appreciate the boost in viewership, Ricky D, and I can hear in your voice that it has been a week of Mondays, my friend.
Yeah, no doubt.
Definitely.
That is rough. My friend Sincera wants to know, how was your shower bath shower? Have you tried it yet? I do know 2 people that have tried the shower bath shower in real life. They report it to be amazing.
I have not showered. I'm more of a 6-minute shower kind of guy.
Oh, gotcha.
So I would probably do well on the ship.
Don't take this in a weird way, but you're a dad in the shower. You're all about efficiency and time and yeah, got it. Okay. So our very, very wonderful live chat continues to get more beautiful by the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our friend Philip Krogmeyer in the live chat. Ricky's back. Ricky's back, ladies and gentlemen, and there's going to be trouble. Ricky D, I promise I will give you a moment, but our friend Robert was just about to say something. I believe you were somewhere along the lines of, you can't see wigs either, Robert? You're wig blind, much as I am?
Yeah, that is a perfect, thank you for saying that. I am definitely wig blind. I mean, I can tell them in real life, but when you watch a movie or a TV show, I just can't see them. Now, that being said, I think the beer, Jet's beer, was done intentionally because every time I saw it, although I can tell that couldn't be real, is kind of obvious. I don't know if you noticed this, but I can't help to think there was intentionally to make him look as close to the anime as possible.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's why they did it. And the thing that I noticed about it was just like, it doesn't look like what I think his natural hair looks like. To be fair, he's bald, so it's like I can't really tell you. But Ricky D, what we're talking about, in case you missed the first part, was that I can't see wigs in television productions.
Like the political group?
Yeah, like,
Ricky, it's good to have you back on the show.
It's a deep cut for sudden but inevitable, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm back.
Welcome to the show, Ricky D. So
yeah,
Game of Thrones, for example, Emilia Clarke wore the platinum blonde wig the entire time to play Daenerys, right? I couldn't tell that was a wig. Like, so I've seen, what we're saying is we've seen people complain about some of the wigs and some of the prosthetic work on this show, but I haven't seen anything that I didn't like. Were there any details in the first episode that you felt were like sloppy or not well executed?
Nothing is standing out. Everything looked really good. It was all crisp. I heard you guys talking earlier about how it looks like an anime. It's a live action anime, and it really is. They take time to, like, they Dutch the camera just a little bit, and they shoot with point of view or perspective that just, it makes everything look like a panel in a comic book. And I also think they do it better than it has been done before. This is like the Watchmen movie. They tried to do that, but it wasn't quite there. And here in Cowboy Bebop, they're doing an incredible job.
I really appreciate that point, actually, because I think the first time that I saw somebody go, you know what, I'm just going to actually do panels, was the 2008 Hulk movie, where they had showed like some concurrent action from different angles and maybe even sometimes it was different scenes, right?
I liked that movie.
And I remember going like, oh, okay, I like it. I can see why most people wouldn't, but I like that. Like, I'm a huge geek. I'm into that. I could see where other people will go, that's incredibly jarring and it looks like a cartoon. To me, this looks like a live action anime. It doesn't look like a cartoon. It doesn't look like an approximation of a cartoon in live action to me, if that makes any sense. It's really difficult for me to explain it. But I think Ricky got it down with the angles and the color saturation and just the shadow work. It's so noir. Bebop has so much noir in its blood, and it translated really well back into live action, I feel.
Speaking of noir, they did a wonderful job with the flashbacks, seeing those different black and white flashbacks that like, yeah, I remember talking about that in episode 1 or 2, whatever, like just loving, like wanting to see more of that. And it did the same thing in this episode. When I watched it, I was like, oh my God, I want to see what happens now. Because obviously this whole episode is different. This whole season's going to be different. So that flashback has got to be different, right? Boy, was it. And it was really cool to get that in this first episode and to kind of get that nostalgia feeling, you know what I mean?
Which kind of blows my mind, okay? Because you saw the original Cowboy Bebop for the first time like 6 months ago. Like,
it's true.
That's crazy to me. Like, and it means the world to me that at the end of that experience, you and Ricky both went, oh, let's just cover Cowboy Bebop then, because like we went through a whole thing, Ricky, about how he may have jinxed the series and we feel terrible. But like it when you both were like, yes, let's totally do that. I got really excited and like teared up a little bit because I was like, okay, spoiler alert, this is the first show for Sudden But Inevitable that Josh and Ricky have been excited to talk about going into it. Because up till now, the point of our show has been to get them to like things I don't know if they will like. So I'm on cloud 9, and this is also why we're going to have to bring on guests that disagree with us this season, because otherwise it's just going to be this the whole time. Now, since this episode is this the whole time,
fanboys the whole time.
You know what? Even if it is that, which I don't think it is, but even if somebody hears us and thinks that, I'm fine with that. And do you know why? Because there is so freaking much negativity about this series already. It's like, you know what? If there's going to be an unabashed, like, fanboy, like, shill show, right? Whatever. That's us. I don't care. Yeah, call us that. We'll be that show. Because I love this show. And I'm going to be pushing that petition on you. Again, the 1-800 number is at the bottom of your screen. A donation from a viewer like you can really help us. I'm, again, totally kidding. Now, you guys, it's only been an hour, but I feel like I've been talking for 3, which generally
that's not good.
Here. I mean, no. I mean, it happens here, right? You got me at the start of my caffeinated drink. I had a long week as well. We love this show. We're mad at the people that don't love this show. Like, this is the right energy for Sudden But Inevitable. So I'm going to ask a question, and then I'm going to step back. I really am going to attempt to step back. If, Josh, I know that your favorite piece of the music here was the harmonica. Okay? And we're going to give the caveat that your favorite piece can't be Tank, the opening theme song.
Well, I got to choose something different, because obviously the opening theme song is the best, but as far as, you know, in each different episode, I want to see, you know, what else they got.
So, Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D, if you could pick out one part of the music from this episode that stands out to you, what would you pick?
I would go near the end of the movie, or near the end of the episode, where Katerina and Asimov are kind of standing next to each other with their backs to each other, and it gave a really strong, like, Desperado vibe. The Salma Hayek and Antonio Banderas. It gave that vibe really strongly, and then they just had, like, the horns flare up, and it was just a really good, really strong. It gave those characters strength in that moment.
Yeah,
they were gonna stand up.
I was almost waiting to hear that track. I think it's from Once Upon a Time in Mexico, where they go, "Hey, pistolero!" and then somebody pulls out a gun and starts shooting people. Like, I was like, I'm so down for this right now. Like, I had the biggest, dumbest grin on my face with the Space Aeropuerto shootout. Like, that was the most, like, I felt like a little kid, you guys. I was like, this is different, but in exactly the right way. And I loved it. So, Robert, knowing that you can't pick Tank, the theme song, and Ricky D has claimed the horns from the Space Aeropuerto, if you had to pick a piece of music from this episode, what would you pick?
I can't remember the name of that song, but it has to be the one when he's coming out of the elevator.
Oh yeah, I dug that song.
I actually have that on my car, and play it all the
Ooh.
time.
Do you play it like on your way to work, like to get into the mode of work? Like I'm gonna
Sometimes
be in
I
the
go
zone.
out and I have the whole album in there, and I just pick that song and I just blast it. But I wish I can remember the name, and I play it all the time. When I heard it, and that's what I'm saying, when I saw that episode, the first song, he's hearing on his, you can't barely hear it because they make it like he's hearing on his headphones. But I was like, oh my God, that's a song. That's my favorite song.
Yeah, that one and the music cue when they show you the Syndicate Tower, which is the exact music from the anime, right? It's like that like wah imposing chord or whatever it is. Those were just musically, like I said, I've seen this episode without even looking at it. I've just listened to it before, but musically, I don't know how you get to the end of this episode and go, this isn't for me. Like, I just don't, like, even if you don't have a point of reference for Cowboy Bebop, right? Like, how is there not enough here that you're just like, I just would like to see some more of that? Like, I don't understand it. And like I said, we'll get guests that'll probably attempt to explain it to me. But I specifically, I think the music is just masterfully used throughout. There is music from the series. There's music from the movie. There are original pieces, like literal remixes of the original tracks, and it's all the seatbelts. They brought Yoko Kanno and the seatbelts back to do the music, and that's part of why it's amazing. And that band is the house band at the bar. Okay, like they're
Kickin'
on the
Colt.
stage.
Kickin' Colt is the name of the song.
Oh, I was like, no, that's the seatbelts. But yes, Kickin' Colt is the name of the song. But
found it. I found it.
They're the house band, and it's like there's so much to talk about with this series. I promise you, I'm trying to focus on this first episode. Robert, what did you think of the translation of Red Eye from anime to real life?
It was close enough. Yes. I mean, there are differences, but there will always be differences. And I like it. I don't have no complaints.
I wish that I would have brought up like comparison shots, like from the anime and the I want to try and do that for future episodes, just to kind of like show that like when he first injects the red eye, it's very, very similar to when he does it in the anime. And there are so many shots like that were so great. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're good.
I feel like that would be a really fun, like, just to kind of show those comparisons, because it was very close to what the original anime did.
Yeah, I remember. Go ahead, Robert.
I'm sorry. I was gonna add to that. In the anime, you see how he never gets shot. He's like a superhuman. So when I saw that, and I can see how some people might complain that they make him look weaker, but the thing is, it makes it more realistic.
Yeah.
In my eyes, when I saw that, I was like, yes.
100%. And I feel like that's why they made the choice to, instead of having somebody put a gun like basically in his forehead and then having him dodge it from like 3 feet, they just had that guy freak out that he hadn't been killed yet and run away. So it's like, that actually fits, right? Like, because they shot him several times and he just beasted it and kept going. We talked about the bar scene in particular on our bonus episode, where we talked about the first 2 episodes in combination, but we have to talk about it again. It's just so well done. I love the bartender. She's so perfect. She's making people drink even though she thinks they might be pregnant. She's making
that was different from the anime. It was flipped, because I think in the anime, didn't she say she wasn't drinking and she was like, okay, cool. The bartender said, okay, cool. And then in this one, she was like, I think you need some tequila.
So in the anime, she goes, give me a drink. And the bartender is like, kind of makes a face and then gives her a drink. Right. And you're like, isn't she pregnant? But in this, she's like, you should drink. And she's like, I am pregnant. And it's like, it's the same thing, but in a different way. Exactly. Yeah. So but that bartender, I love that she does all that. And then she extorts Jet to give him information. She's just like, well, and it just, I don't know, the toning all the way through. Our friend Angelus in the chat says, Jesse, I don't want to detract from the main topic, but I'm seeing a lot of parallels between both Alita and Bebop and the fandoms themselves. That is a good thing, Angelus, because I think both fandoms could use more allies and more, I don't want to call us evangelists, proponents. Let's call ourselves proponents. And
cultists.
I mean, that's probably closer to accurate. But I mean, let's do it. Let's get people on both of these things forever and anon. I am so ready for that. And we have a good group of people here to do that with us. We've got Phil, we've got Sincera, we've got Angelus, we've got Callie in the chat, we've got Rona in the chat. I love all the people around us. We've got Robert, we've got Ricky D, we've got Josh. We have so many podcasting friends in the podcast world, so many sci-fi friends, you guys. I love making Sudden But Inevitable. I just said love making. Now, moving right along.
Ow!
I think I'm going to give everybody their chance to say we have to talk about this thing, and then we should start up our segments. So let's start with our friend Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D, since he probably has some ground
he's
to make
probably
up.
got some things to talk about down there, because
well, and
you were
part of it
gone.
is going to be that, you know, he may repeat some stuff because he didn't get to watch the whole thing, and that's okay. I feel like we should give Ricky D the space to do that. So what do you think is the most important stuff to talk about from this episode that you haven't heard specifically yet, Ricky D?
Well, I need a little bit of time so I get a chance to complain about all the stupid nerds that ruined this for us already. It got canceled a few days after it came out. Are you kidding me? What were they expecting? Like,
I take it you like it, Ricky?
I definitely enjoy the show. And, you know, I went on record on our Firefly podcast saying, I don't want Firefly to come back. I don't want a spin-off. I don't want an anime. I don't want any of that. However, if it did come back, I would try and come at it from a neutral place. Just because I don't want it now doesn't mean I'm going to automatically hate it if it comes to existence. And I feel like that's what happened with this show, is everybody was hating on it before they even had a chance to really see anything. And they ruined such a good thing.
And they ruined such a good thing so quickly.
Yeah.
Like,
I wonder if it might be because of the track record. I mean, I can mention, you know,
I think
The Last
Death Note is what
Airbender.
did it.
You know, I can mention so many things that they adapted that turn out to, you know, Dragon Ball. That it's, I don't know. I wonder how much of that played into this whole thing.
And how much people were like, oh, they've done this before with other shows. Like, this is going to be terrible. I'm not even going to watch it. I'm going to go, you know, bomb it on Rotten Tomatoes just because. Like,
well,
it was like Star Wars. There was a lot of people going and just bombing. I think it was Solo. They just went and rated it really low, like, because they didn't like Last Jedi or whatever. Like, but they had never seen the movie. Like, I know that there was a lot of controversy there, and I think it's kind of the same thing here, where it's people are like, "Oh, I'm not even going to watch it. I just know it's going to be terrible. I'm not going to make my own opinion. I'm just going to go, you know, rate bomb it and screw it out of existence," which I think is very unfair.
Well, and that's the part that upsets me, is that Netflix in 3 weeks went, well, not enough people have started watching. It's like it was in the top 10 of the viewing for all 3 of the weeks that it existed. Like, and then as soon as they canceled it, I will say it did mysteriously disappear from the front page of my Netflix, by the way. I had to go find it and add it to my list so that it would stay at the top. And I'm like,
don't you think people just stopped caring once you hear that it's canceled? People are like, oh, well, why would I invest my time in it now?
But like, you shouldn't then say now the show doesn't exist. Like, all of the effort still went into it. Still show it to people and still act like it's a product that you're proud of. Like, I just feel like I feel like it was done dirty on every angle. Like, the audience was pissy about it, and now Netflix is being pissy about it. Like, it just, I feel everyone is being pissy.
Kind of reminds me of another show that got done kind of dirty. I don't know, what was that called? Oh, Firefly.
Man,
that's right.
It's like, and you know, there is some kind of poetic balance there, right? I'm sure, but it's just like I'm so mad at audiences. Like, I almost never agree with them, and then when a good thing comes along, they're like, I don't like this. So I don't know. audiences, get your stuff together, audiences. Okay. Ricky D, is there anything else that you feel like you have to address before we jump into our segments with our guest? I'll give everybody else their chance, but if there's anything else you feel like you have to do, now is your shot.
Well, I have to make everybody listening to the sound of my voice remember about John Cho's sweaty abs when he was working out. That was really hard not to choose as my shot of the show.
He was looking fly. He was looking real good. Like I was like kind of like, oh man, maybe I should start working out a little bit. Like he's way older than me and looks like way better than me.
I'd get some hand-to-hand combat with him.
Well, and we did make, so the point, the way that we had phrased it, Ricky, was get out of my face if you're telling me you think he looks old, because he does not. You can't tell how old he is by looking at him at all. Like,
no.
It just doesn't. I know that he is a certain age because I've been watching him in movies for a certain number of years, but I can't tell by looking at him, like, by any stretch, honestly. So, yeah, that's actually that's a good point to bring up. Just like the point that our friend Phil brought up on Facebook Live, he says, audiences, who needs them? And, of course, the answer to that is us. So go look for Sudden But Inevitable wherever you download your podcasts, or go to facebook.com/twistmyarmpodcast, or go to youtube.com/twistmyarmpodcast to join us live in the chat every Friday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time, my friends.
Gosh, thank you guys all so much for hanging out with us in the live chat. This has been awesome. I think this is some of the most interaction we've gotten in the live chat in a long time, and this is wonderful. I love it.
It's almost difficult to keep up with the live chat, which is really cool. Ricky D, did you have more points to add to that before we move to Josh's points? Like I said, I know that some of it is just going to be you weren't here for part of it, but we don't hold that against you. We're just happy to have you with.
Yeah, just one other thing. I know I was ragging on Faye in the anime series. I did a lot of talking about not liking her. In this live action one, there's something about her dialogue that's really quippy, and she's already ahead of Spike or anybody else who she's talking to. So she has a better understanding of the situation than they do. And she just kind of jokes about the things that about the directions that they're trying to take the conversation, because she already knows what's going on. So I'm really digging Faye.
I am so glad that you said that, because we had actually wondered out loud how you might feel about that. Gotta say good night to our friend Sincera. Have a good evening, my friend. The thing about Faye that I know that you had a lot of resistance to, other than her manipulative nature, etc., was how pretty that she is.
Yeah.
Daniela Pineda's pretty good looking, so I'm really glad to see you looking past the surface level, even though it's like the opposite of the way that most people would ever have to do that. I appreciate the growth, I guess is what I'm saying. So let's go ahead and move to our guest for the evening, Robert from the Science Fiction Remnant podcast. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you feel like must be brought up before we get to our segments?
No, I think I pretty much cover it. And I would have to say, though, I feel the love in your show. And I want to say thank you to the audience as well. They always make me feel very welcome. Thank you so much.
It's true. That's not the first time that we've heard that from guests here at Sudden But Inevitable. And I got to say, I think that is one of the things that I love the most about our show, is that when people come here to our show, it really is a show about found family. I mean, most of the shows that we talk about on our show, I'm going to keep saying show, most of the television programs that we talk about on our podcast happen to be about found family, but in a really cool, fun way. Our podcast ended up being about that too in real life. Josh and I have known each other since literally the first day of first grade. He and Ricky and I all went to high school together, and then we didn't see each other for several years. And then Ricky showed up in a live chat for Quest Me, and here we are. We met Robert last year talking about sci-fi. Like, talk about found family. This is found family. All the people in our chat are found family. These people have been supporting us for a year straight. I mean, I thank you very much for bringing that up, Robert, because the love is kind of what makes SBI SBI. Josh, my friend, is there anything you feel like we must discuss before we get to our weekly segments?
Just to kind of further that point, like it's wonderful, like seeing you guys in the chat, like, hey, you guys just talking to each other in the chat is so awesome, right? Because I mean, I feel like in a way, like we all kind of did that, and that's really freaking cool. And and you guys are all like my found family. You know, I've been tested a lot in the last 5 months as far as like my life and stuff. And there's one thing that's been solid and one thing that has been true, and that's this family that I have and the Twist My Arm Network and Sudden But Inevitable and you guys that watch. Like it's been amazing, like the people that have reached out and said things and stuff. And I can't thank you guys enough for being a part of not only our podcast but our lives, because it's wonderful. And I love doing this, and I love coming here every Friday and being like, hey guys, it's so nice to see you. My week sucked, but it's fine because we're here now. So I'm so excited for this season and to talk with you guys about, you know, Cowboy Bebop again, but in a remix fashion, you know. And
yes,
it's just, I don't know, it tickles my heart. So thank you guys so much.
I think that is an excellent spot for us to move into our first of 2-ish segments this week,
2.5.
which we like to call, of course, Shot of the Show. Shot of the Show, as you know, is where we share our favorite visual moments from this week's episodes, moments that are now living rent-free in our heads. I think the only way to do this properly would be to invite our guest Robert to go first. Josh, if you wouldn't mind bringing up Robert's selection and giving us the time code for that, and then Robert, you can talk about this shot.
Actually, I have 2 different shots because I couldn't tell which one you wanted, Robert. So I'm gonna throw this one out there. Was it this one, or was it this one? A or B?
That one.
Okay.
Netflix's time codes are very imprecise. They don't split
Weird.
seconds
Yeah.
easily, so it's a thing that we have to calibrate. So give us the time code, Josh, and then Robert, go ahead.
I don't remember the time code. We'll
put that in post. Robert, go ahead.
Yeah, and it, you know, I understand what you say. This is the time codes are a little, the shot that I was actually looking at is when they're both looking front, but this is, you know, close enough. This shot, the other one is the closest one. Yeah, that one. It just it gave me goosebumps. This is the first time that I see them. I don't even know how to explain it. I just got, I love the show so much, and see them together collaborating and into the, you know, the first bounty of the show, which basically happened on the anime too, where they're going after Asimov. And it just, I just got goosebumps, and it's in my head, that scene, you know.
Yeah.
It like you said it perfectly. It rents free.
Look at that. Josh, can you pull us off the screen real quick for a moment? Look at the Apple IIe monitor right there.
Oh yeah.
In between he and Jet. That's great. That is an old computer, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, I have to agree with you 100%, Robert. Josh, give me that time code one more time so that I can say it out loud, my friend. That is 23 minutes and 18 seconds if you're watching along at home. The thing about this shot, like you said, this whole first episode, I think, really reestablished Jet and Spike's relationship for us, right? They're both macho. They don't tell each other that they care about each other, but they totally do. I mean, they're bros. They're total bros. The whole series, they're total bros, and they just don't talk about it, which is great, because that's how bros are. Am I right, bros? Cool.
Bromantic.
So... Excellent pick. Let's have Ricky D's shot up next, I believe. Josh, do you have the time code block for that one?
Yes. This one is at 1824, and it is this bad boy right here.
Yeah. This is right after Asimov took the red eye, and he kills all those syndicate guys that are coming after him. And I liked this shot in particular because it reminds me of a whole bunch of different video games. In particular, I know for sure BioShock, when you like acquire your powers, you like put your hands up in front of the screen and their hands like start bursting with flames. And BioShock's the only game I can think of that does that, but I know it's a trope from many other games. And I just thought that was kind of a cool reminiscent thing. He's feeling this extreme power coursing through his veins, and that's a good way to display it.
Injecting the plasmids. Yeah, I don't know, the line of "I just mainlined God." That's a little cheesy, but
Yeah.
it's the
I love it,
exact
though.
flavor of cheese that
Yeah.
I want. Like, yeah, it's pour it on. I don't care. Melt that American cheese, put it on my food where it does not belong. I am ready for it. Like everything about it. And yes, I love that pick, Ricky D, because it gives you that's the kind of shot you wouldn't usually see in a live action show, right? Like a true POV looking down at your hands, like, oh, I'm disoriented style shot. I mean, unless somebody was like, for example, on a lot of crazy drugs. And I just, it fits so good. And it matches the POV freneticism of that part of the anime episode. All right. I believe, Josh, let's go with you. I'm willing to go last for this segment. What is your shot of the show, my friend?
So mine is at the 41 minute and 27 second mark. It's just, I just love this kind of first interaction. It's not the first interaction, but first main interaction with Jet and Faye, where she kind of just saved his life, and he's like, "Wait a minute, is that my gun?" It just gets so upset that she's using his gun to save his life. I love that because that dynamic just continues through the whole series, and it's a great first like introduction to those two characters.
Well, and she has that like, oh, right, you technically captured me. Like look on her face when she hands it back, like, please don't shoot me with this gun. It's the that paternal thing that Jet has with the crew, right? It gets established right here for this series for us because he doesn't have any other interaction with Faye. So this is the moment where he establishes the paternal tone of like, I can just sort of give you orders because I'm bigger than you and you're sort of on my ship. So, and then it works out, right? And I just, yeah, I like that they quickly establish the dynamics that we are used to. I am interested to speak with somebody who's never seen the anime before, and we have those kinds of guests coming up. I'm interested to see how they read these first couple episodes because they're very reference heavy, right? So, all right, let's move to my shot, which you, I believe, have the time code for as well.
Yes, that is going to be at 13 minutes exactly.
Oh, my word. The translation here of one of the more sci-fi aspects of Cowboy Bebop, right? The gate system. This is one of those things that is constantly in the background of the original series. It's something that we see a little bit. We see enough of it to get familiar with it. We see some of their hyperspace. We get a lesson on how hyperspace matter works, this, that, and the other thing. For me, this is the exact translation. They have the gates with the little like calibration notches on the top that are angled slightly differently per gate. It's just exact. This is how it should be. And the other thing that this shot reminds me of, actually, and I'm not just saying this because Robert is here, but it's Space Sweepers. There were so many shots in Space Sweepers exactly like this. And I think that's why if you go listen to our Space Sweepers episode, you'll hear us go, this is live action Cowboy Bebop. We're so ready for this movie.
Yeah.
And this moment really drove that home for me. So that's why I picked these gates. Now, our next segment, you will be familiar with. We're going to rename it this season after the name that we have been using for our little movie bonus season where we were talking about all kinds of cool movies. And of course, the name of this segment, my friends, is No Finer One-Liner. No Finer One-Liner, in case you can't tell, is where we share our favorite moments of dialogue from this week's episode. I just got to point out really quickly, our friend Callie says, yes, Space Sweepers. I've been watching that a lot since you guys covered it. It has been on my list in rotation, Callie D, so you are in good company, my friend. Let's stick with the pattern. Let's have our friend Robert and guest go first. Robert, what was or Josh, if you wouldn't mind playing Robert's selection for No Finer One-Liner, and then Robert will have you discuss it.
Just to be clear, we don't get paid if we bring him in dead, but damage is okay?
I'd say very badly damaged would be A-okay.
Huh?
It doesn't matter how many times I hear this.
The grunting really sells that. The guy that's just grunting in pain.
This is, and again, I guess you can tell why I picked that based on my shot of the show. The bromance, the interaction, it is so awesome, and we see that from the get-go. That is the very first bromance scene that we see, and he sold me into the entire show.
I have to say, the cop in that scene, his mug says, "I drink coffee for your protection."
Yeah,
like
so good.
it's those little details. It's things like that. It's them talking about the guy that they're about to punch, justifying punching him right before they do it. Yeah, I love the bromance. Excellent pick. Callie D in the chat agrees with you. Let's stick with the same pattern. Ricky D, Josh, let's play Ricky D's selection next. This is difficult.
Wow. Those are some real pretty words there, cowboy. Does that shit work on all the girls?
Can I help you?
Yeah, you can kindly fuck off. It's nothing personal, but your Mark's coming with me.
Look, I don't know what you're trying to pull, but I was here first. He's mine.
The boyfriend. I don't give a shit about him. I'm after her. What?
One, if you don't get that gun off of me, I'm gonna make you eat it. And two, why the hell would anyone care about her? There's no bounty on her.
Oh, I care about her because Ellis Montgomery does. So pack up your bags, princess, because daddy wants you home. No.
Wait.
No.
She's Katarina Montgomery?
She's Katarina Montgomery.
Please, help me. I can't go back there.
I know, but a whole lot of money says otherwise.
You don't...
So I know that was supposed to be a one-liner, and it got a little bit longer. But just like I was saying earlier about Faye and her dialogue, she's already super aware of the entire situation. She knows more than Spike does about what's going on there. And she's just kind of toying with him in that dialogue where it's like, no, he's coming with me. Well, I was here first. Well, you don't even know what's going on. So cool your jets, bud.
And I love that that doesn't replace her backstory, right? It's not like, oh, now she's totally with it. It's like she's good enough at being present in the moment to handle herself, but she still doesn't know her past, and she still is lost and has, real emotions about that. Spoiler alert, we'll get there. But that's an excellent pick, Ricky, for that reason, I think, because it does show the contrast between the anime and the live action version of her. And I gotta say, I'm not surprised. I don't think that you like the live action version of her better. I might be able to be convinced of that myself, but I do love the original Faye. I really do, because I'm, a nerd. Josh, my friend, your selection, if you will.
You're the one who's always saying that we gotta live by rules, and the rule is when it comes to the syndicate, we walk away. Right?
Suddenly you give a shit about the rules.
No, that...
Right when I need the dough to buy my daughter a birthday present?
Jet.
You don't want my daughter to have a birthday?
I don't know what it is about just that last line. Like, that's me. Just coming to conclusions, like, immediately, and me like, what? What do you mean? You don't want my daughter to have a birthday? Like, what the hell? Like, I related so much to Jet in that, because he just kind of lost his cool really quick, because he cares so much about his daughter, and it's kind of clouding his judgment, where Spike is like, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. Wait, what? So it was just it was a fun comedy line for me, and a relatable line for me.
Real quick point from Callie D. Jet is trying to straight up guilt trip Spike. I think that fits. I think that fits with the paternal tone that I mentioned on Jet earlier. Good pick. I'll be honest. I'm glad to hear you say that, because that was sort of the same thought process I had. I was like, oh, I've seen Josh do that. I love this. That's beautiful, and that's an amazing thing. If you wouldn't mind, Josh, throw up that last selection.
Who's in the bathroom?
Please let me out of here.
What? Who's in the bathroom?
Hey, Dickhole! Please let me out of here. God, does anyone ever clean up in here?
Gross. Finally. Hey, super cool accommodations. But do you think you could handcuff me to an even bigger, more disgusting toilet? Because that'd be great. Who are you supposed to be?
Jet Black, meet Faye Valentine.
Hey, fuck you! I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. We got it on the wrong foot. Keep the door.
Because this is the part of her that is like the anime Faye. She is willing to draw the lines, call the shots, and be the way that will get everybody upset. and then immediately go, whoa, hey, let's not just be irrational, right? Like let's calm down. Like she steals their bounty the first time that she meets them, like their pay for the bounty, and then the next time she sees them, she's like, hey, can I ask a favor? Like she knows, right? So I just feel like this really encapsulates the part of this character that is original, and it is remixed in such a beautiful foul-mouthed package. Like the tone and the energy coming off of Daniela Pineda is kind of, I mean, it could carry me for the whole series if it had to. It doesn't have to, but it totally could. I really honestly believe that it could. I really love that. And the introduction of the way that she says, who are you supposed to be? That's kind of meta, right? Like, what am I looking at here? I'm looking at a Cowboy Bebop cosplay. I'm looking at an adaptation. I'm looking at a remix, and I'm loving it. Spoiler alert. I'm in love with this show. Our friend Philip K. in the chat says, it's all phenomenally well done, and I must agree. It truly is. Now, that is going to do it for our weekly segments, my friends. I think that might be a record for the fastest we've ever gotten through our weekly segments.
Are we not going to... Don't we rate it?
We are going to rate it.
Okay, okay. I figured that was kind of a segment. Is that not a segment?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I said 2.5.
Right. I think where we landed was that it is a segment, but it doesn't have a bumper, so it doesn't feel like a segment.
Rating, remix rating. There's a bumper.
Action item. We will make a bumper for that, and it won't be that. And we will go forward from there. We do like to rate our episodes out of 10 here at Sudden But Inevitable, and I have a thing where I generally rate on emotion over like objective quality, so I will go last. And because we do have a guest this week, let's allow our wonderful guest, Robert from the Science Fiction Remnant podcast, to go first. Robert, give us your rating out of 10 for this week's episode, Cowboy Gospel.
There's only one possible for me. It's a 10.
Do it. Yeah.
It's a 10. Sorry.
Is it just a flat 10? Do you have any reasoning you'd like to throw behind that, or are you just staunchly it is a 10, period?
Well, I'm not claiming that, just like you said, it's not perfect. There's a couple of things, but it all plays well together for me, and it's just amazing. So for me, is definitely a 10. I feel like I'm watching the anime, and I'm getting new things that I did not get before, and I love that.
I agree, and I think that that's a good way to put it, because it does feel like the anime enough to go, oh, these are connected, but it's also different enough to where if for some reason in your head you need to separate them to be happy, then go ahead and do that. But still don't be a jerk about this series, and give us a second season, please. Okay. I like it. I feel like you're a man after my own heart.
Season.
I like it. So let's go Ricky D. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Give me your rating out of 10 this week, my friend.
Yeah, I'm going a little bit lower, but still pretty high up there. I'm going 8 out of 10. It was a great introduction, bringing us back into the Cowboy Bebop world. It had it was great dialogue. It was amazing action. That whole casino scene was great. It started out with Spike kicking a quarter into some dude's head. Absolutely. 8 out of 10. This was amazing.
I love it. And it was just
And
he didn't need to do that, but he did. Go ahead, Josh.
I just have to agree with Ricky. 8 out of 10. And I think I agree in a different way. And I'm doing this with Quest Me too, because I've been rating Quest Me a little bit lower because I feel like it can get better. And so I'm rating this down at an 8 because I know, well, I mean, I've seen the whole series, but I feel like there are episodes that are going to be 11s out of 10s, 10 out of 10s. And I have to take the first episode and really, I can't set that mark so high right away because I know that there's probably going to be some episodes that are 6s too, whatever. But like, this is just it was a great introduction to every single character. Spike, Jet, Faye, Vicious, whatever the girl's name is. I always forget her name.
Katarina Montgomery.
But no, the other one.
Julia?
Julia.
Julia, thank you. Gosh, okay. If you guys watch the show, you know that I am terrible with names.
He is.
And so, but again, great introductions to everything. I mean, the Syndicate, you get a little bit of a look into the Syndicate, you get a little bit of a look into the cowboy life, and it's just it was a great introduction, but I know that it can be better. I know that there are episodes that are just gonna make me get steamy in my pants.
I could have lived without that phrasing. What I was gonna say was I feel like they managed to make the line about Tears of Scarlet fit a little better in the live action than they did in the anime. It sure showed up a lot sooner. I mean, yeah, way different. But I feel like it made a little bit more sense here, just because of the whole red eye thing and everything that was going on. So, and I hear you, Josh. I hear where you're coming from. I believe on the spreadsheet I also put down 8 out of 10 for this. I may have put a 9.
It was
out
a
of 10.
9.
Okay, I think I put a 9 out of 10 because I feel like it accomplishes everything that it sets out to do, in my opinion. And as far as an introduction to a thing, I like I said, when we were watching this together, we were texting each other. I kept going, dude, like Bebop, OMG, dude, yes, please. Like there was nothing but elation. And the pieces of it where I went, I would have made a different decision, were not even close to the kind of thing that make me go, and therefore I'm not going to watch this, or I enjoy it less now, or it's poor quality. It's just that I would have made a different decision. Now, here's the other thing. Nobody should give me control over something like this, because I would not even be able to come close to what has been created here. This is a nearly perfect pilot for a space western. I can say that because I watch a lot of space westerns with you guys, and there is proof of that. If you go watch the first episode of The Mandalorian, it gives you very little detail. It just lets you know this is a space western. Here we go. And that's enough. If you go watch the first episode, the actual first episode of Firefly, basically the same thing. It gives you a bunch of character details and it shows you the world, and that's enough. This is doing the same thing all the way around. It explains the bounty system. It shows how that works with the police. It shows how space is. It shows how our solar system is. It's pretty nearly a perfect first episode. But I don't want to set the bar. Like you said, I just don't want to set the bar there. Now, I do appreciate where Robert is coming from, because if I was doing this purely on emotion, it would be a 10. Because I'm doing it like 4% objectively, it's a 9 out of 10 for me. I didn't do the math. Did anybody do the math on that? I don't think we need to. It's real jazzy, and it's a high score. 10, 9, and 2 8s.
It'd be 35 out of 40. Which would bring us at about 86%, something like that. 86, 87.
I don't.
I think if my math is right.
I'm gonna trust you, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, the Emperor is in the chat, listening in podcast land. This has just been a blast for me. I hope that you have had at least some modicum of fun. I would imagine that you have, because it's been an hour and 40 minutes, and you're all still here with us in the live chat. Callie, Phil, Rona. Sincera, you guys, I can't thank you enough. Angelus, thank you guys for being here. There's so many people every week that we have to thank, and I actually do a lot of that on Twitter. So if you have found yourself enjoying Sudden But Inevitable, go follow me on Twitter at Sudden But. Follow me on Instagram at Sudden But Inevitable Podcast. You can get a look at our shots of the show. I put all of our upcoming guests there. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff this season on both of those accounts. Definitely check that out. Ricky D, what have you got, my friend?
Could I get a thank you for joining in the chat?
Oh, you could. So if you have been enjoying us, I'm just playing, my friend.
Thanks, Ricky D, for joining us in the chat.
No,
it was great to see you in there. Big shout out to Ricky D.
Here's the thing about that. It actually did take dedication, right? Because he was driving around. He was literally at work up until the last minute. I think that is amazing. Angelus is here because of Robert. That's the kind of thing that we love. That's how we grow our found family, man. Thank you for coming here in support of Robert and spending some time with us and contributing to the conversation. You have made some excellent points, so thank you for being here.
Yeah,
and
we'll be here next week too. Come hang out with us again. Like, it was great.
We're kind of here every week. That's just sort of what we do. But yeah, so we do have a website coming up. Josh is still working on the new version of the Twist My Arm podcast website, but it is on its way. So for now, follow the show at Sudden But Inevitable on Twitter. Follow us at Sudden But Inevitable Podcast on Instagram. If you need to listen to us, just search Sudden But Inevitable in anything. We'll pop up. We're there. Subscribe to the podcast, listen to it, download it, rate it, do all the cool things, watch us on YouTube, do all the cool things. We love you. We appreciate you. We have a lot of fun. Now, we are in the process of wrapping this up. So, my friend Robert, our wonderful guest from the Science Fiction Remnant podcast, please tell the good folks out there, what is the best way for them to listen to your show, and what's the best way to get a hold of you out there on the internet?
Well, you can follow me at Sci-Fi Remnant. You can, if you're looking for our podcast, season 1 is available, so you can binge it. That is Science Fiction Remnant and any podcast catcher that you have. Take your pick. And I would have to mention also that, if you love sci-fi, as much as I do, as much as Jesse and everyone here does, I will invite you to follow hashtag This Is Sci-Fi, and let's just join forces. Let's talk about bringing back season 2 for Cowboy Bebop. But let's join the conversation. The hashtag This Is Sci-Fi.
Yes, I can totally back that up. The hashtag This Is Sci-Fi has put our show in touch with a lot of other cool shows, and we're doing like some cool, fun cross promotion, just trying to get the sci-fi audience that we all are reaching for to watch some of the same stuff, right? Because that's always the goal, is to reach the people. So I definitely agree with that, and thank you, Robert, for mentioning that. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. If the fine folks would like to get more than just 45 minutes of you in their life, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, you can find my podcast, Best Flicks with Ricky D, on Spotify, Apple Music, any of those streaming platforms. And I'm also on Twitter at Best Flicks Ricky D. And it's a new year. That means it's time to step up the podcasting game, learn a few new tricks, and I'm excited about what 2022 is going to bring.
I dig that big time. I like that. Go follow Ricky D. You'll see me giving him a lot of snarky guff on Twitter, because you may have noticed he and I have, what's the word? Differing dispositions. Let's say it that way. Josh, my friend, if the wonderful people out there would like to get some more Josh in their days, how can they do that?
Man, right now, my main focus is Quest Me. You can find Quest Me on Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff. Just search for Quest Me. It'll be a lot easier once the website is up too. But right now I'm working on some new things. Like I am kind of in that new year, new me cliche at the moment. Twist My Arm has been officially retired. That podcast is not going to be going on anymore. I'm thinking of doing something different, but along kind of the same realms. It just kind of depends. I am, like I said, Quest Me is going to be the best place to find me for the next 8 weeks. So, otherwise, just be on the lookout for that website. You follow me on Twitter at TwistMyArmcast, and you'll get all my fun promotional things.
And for the next 9 weeks, of course, Josh will be here every Friday on Sudden But Inevitable with us. So the best way to watch that, the easiest way to watch that, is just go to youtube.com/twistmyarmpodcast. You know what? I've never got to say this before. Go ahead and hit subscribe. Our live videos will pop up, and then you won't miss a video. How cool would that be? I just think that would be cool. Philip Krogmeyer in our
smash
chat
that
says,
subscribe button.
Phil in the chat says, "Woo!" So if that doesn't convince you, I don't know what will. That's a pretty heartfelt string of letters, my friends. You guys, I think that we have kicked off season 3 of Sudden But Inevitable in style. I think we've done it in a way that would make Spike and Jet and Faye, and let's be honest, Ed and Ein proud of us. I think that we're going to be able to pull off this cool remixed version of Sudden But Inevitable to cover this cool remixed version of Cowboy Bebop. For the sign-off this evening, my friends, let's go Robert, Ricky, Josh, and then myself. So, for Sudden But Inevitable, I have been Jesse.
I am Robert.
This is Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D.
Unmuted, and this is Josh.
See you, legally sanctioned space vigilante.